Welcome back, Immigrant Nation. Another week, another new episode. I'm your host, Aaron Deliosa, and this is An Immigrant's Life. An Immigrant's Life on all the social media where you can reach out if you or someone you know wants to come on the podcast and tell their story. Or you can also send me an email at animmigrantslife@yahoo.com. Oh man, weather has been so beautiful lately, and I'm pretty excited for spring. I don't really count spring, to be honest. I just go straight to summer. So I'm excited because I could finally go on a bike ride, as you know, or if you have listened to this podcast a long while. I am an avid cyclist. I go for long bike rides, like 100 kilometers and so on and so forth. Actually, this Sunday, I went for a bike ride for my first bike ride of 2024. I just went for like 15 kilometers, and it wasn't that long. I just want to get out there, to be honest. I just want to feel that feeling of being outside and biking. And it was so good for the soul and so refreshing. I hope you're excited for good weather as well. I hope you have other plans, and I'd love to hear them. If you feel like sharing it, again, reach out and send me a message. But yeah, I think that's good for the housekeeping. How about let's talk about this week's episode? In this episode, we're diving into the remarkable journey of a Hollywood TV and film hairstylist. Raised in a traditional Catholic Filipino household, our guest rebelled against constraint while navigating immigration challenges and cramped living conditions. Together with her parents' sacrifice, these experiences fueled her drive for a better future. Then, the COVID pandemic happened, which prompted her to confront and shed her whitewashed views, advocating for open discussion on race and challenging internalized biases. Her career transitioned from aspiring music songwriter to renowned hairstylist, collaborating with stars like Jung Kook and Usher. Join us as she shares insights on evolving beauty standards and actors embracing their Filipino heritage, and her journey that embodies resilience, authenticity, and unwavering determination. I'm excited for you guys to listen to this podcast because I really had fun recording this with the guests. So let's get to the point, shall we? Without further ado, let's get into the show. Isa, dalawa, tatlo. Today's guest is a Hollywood TV and film hairstylist that makes stars shine on screen by infusing them a drizzle of her radiant heart and soul. Everyone, please welcome PJ Olay.
Hey, hello. Thank you so much, Aaron, for having me on.
Of
And
course,
yeah, this is really cool.
of course. Thank you for accepting my invitation.
Yeah, totally. I really appreciate you reaching out. It was, social media is amazing these days. You can
Mm.
literally just reach anybody. And you're what, all the way in Canada?
Yes, Montreal.
That's crazy. I'm out here in Los Angeles.
That's
So
beautiful. Why don't you tell the Immigrant Nation where they can reach you or promote anything before we move on?
yeah, my Instagram is pj.olay. I also am on TikTok, but I'm hardly on there as well. I think it's both under the same name, pj.olay.
Mm.
And I also actually have a beauty blog called Beauty Revival. You can find that at beautyrevival.org.
Mm.
And we blog. It's a huge beauty blog that talks about all mediums from hair, makeup, skincare, and wellness. And we showcase trends and inspiration and all that fun stuff. So
That's
check it out.
awesome. Of course, of course. Offline, we're talking about your name. And yes, of course, I want to ask about your name.
Yeah, so I go by PJ. Most people know me as PJ, but it stands for Prescilla Jean. And I have quite a long name. It's Prescilla Jean Rodriguez Olay. And I have the traditional Spanish Catholic name because, of course, I was raised Catholic by my Filipino Catholic parents and, of course, Spanish influence, right? So my name, Prescilla Jean, it came from two different places.
Mm.
And originally I was supposed to be named Billie Jean because my parents really loved the Michael Jackson song Billie Jean. And but I believe one of them didn't like the name Billy because it sounded too boyish and too androgynous. So they first they were going to name then they were going to name me Christina because my mom wanted to nickname me Chrissy, but then they didn't like that, and then they ended up naming me Prescilla, actually after Priscilla Presley and Priscilla Barnes from Three's Company, the actress who replaced Susan Summers. I don't know if anybody knows that show still. But and then they kept Jean because they really loved Jean. So then Prescilla Jean became my name, and that's the story behind
It's a beautiful, it's a beautiful story. By the way, another typical Filipino, like naming their kids after songs.
Okay, well there we go. Then it is a typical. Okay,
Yeah.
Well, I was named after, I guess Elvis Presley's wife, so I guess that's pretty close enough, adjacent enough.
Yeah.
But the middle name is from a song.
Yeah. It's like it's either a song like my niece, her name is Aubrey, which is from a song from Bread. My sister, her nickname is Sanadu, which is from a song from Olivia Newton-John.
Oh, okay,
So
cool.
yeah, so it's just a typical like because we love music, right?
Yes, we do. We're a very musical culture, and our and the way we speak has a very sing-songy vibe to it, don't you say?
That's right. Speaking of our culture, where your family from in the Philippines?
My mom is from Manila and Pasig, Manila, and then my dad grew up in Isabela, so he's Ilocano.
Oh my God, that's far.
Yeah, I think that's on those. I think both of those are on the island of Luzon. So
mainland.
Yeah, mainland, and yeah, they both immigrated here. Actually, my mother actually immigrated here before my father did. She immigrated here on a nursing program, of course, like every like Filipino like boomer and Gen Xer, I guess, that came over here. They took the opportunity to. My mom took the opportunity to become a nurse, and she went to school out in a college that was full of that recruited a bunch of Filipino nurses and in Texas. And I think that's where she met my dad's sister, who introduced my dad's sister introduced him to her. Wow. And so I think there was a courtship that happened from what I remember. And my dad wrote my mother love letters and so romantic back then. Like nobody does that now.
You just slide on a DM.
Yeah, they slide in the DMs and like WID. It's like, good God, there's just no romance anymore. But anyway, I thought that was really a cool origin story. And then, of course, I believe there was some going back and forth because eventually, my mom or my dad maybe have come over here. The memory is quite muddled because I've heard the story like back when I did a family tree project, but some of the details are a little fuzzy. But anyway,
high school.
Yeah, high school. I think so. And I remember recording my dad on a cassette tape.
No way.
So
You still have a cassette tape?
I do. And like
Amazing.
I need to actually listen to it back because my dad told me the whole story of our family origins and stuff, and I really would love to revisit it. So that would have been great homework for this podcast, but maybe another conversation.
Oh, it's all good. Have you been back home?
Oh my God, not since I was 7.
Wow.
So basically, I was born here. So basically, my mom my mom traveled from Texas after she graduated and got her nursing job out here in California, out in Los Angeles, and she worked on the Kaiser and Sunset. And we lived in Los Angeles, Hollywood area up until I was 4 years old. My dad actually wasn't here when I was born. He was still trying to immigrate over here from the Philippines. So I was born without my dad here, and my mom had her friends around her, and her coworkers and her neighbors and her community basically support and help raise me until my dad was able to fly back over. And all of us, yeah,
that's beautiful.
Yeah,
you seems to be a free-spirited person. Did you get in a lot of troubles growing up?
Oh God. Yeah, I would say I'm the black sheep of the family. I got into quite a bit of trouble growing up. I was definitely the more rebellious one, and I definitely talked back. My parents did not like that.
How much you got slapped?
Oh, quite a bit. Oh my God. No, it's pretty bad. Like I mean, they had the belt and everything,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But like I fought back. I was like, I didn't want to stand for the injustice and how dare you treat me this way. And like my parents were just like, you're the child, we're the parents.
Mm-hmm.
Like you need, you need to do as we say. You need to listen to us no matter what. And I'm like, what? So if you told me to jump off a cliff that like I should do it. Oh
Yeah,
my God, it
yeah.
was so bad. I was such a smart ass.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it
Thank
was
God you
pretty bad.
survived.
I did, right? Yeah, it was pretty rocky growing up with my parents because they were very, very strict Catholic, and both of them worked.
Mm-hmm.
My mom actually was the breadwinner in the family to begin with because my dad was still trying to integrate and get his roots out here and find work.
Mm-hmm.
And so my mom supported the family for a while until my dad was able to get on his feet. And um, I remember we lived in a one-bedroom apartment in Los Angeles.
How many
And
people?
well, now I have a younger brother who's 3 years younger than me, and I have a younger sister who's a year and a half
So
younger than
five?
me. So five of us. So all five of us shared a bed and
Yeah.
slept in one bedroom
Oh
for like
my
the first
God.
4 years of my life. And it was quite humble, like and I remember just moving around a lot when I was young. Like, we probably didn't live in one place for more than a year because my parents were tago ng tago, as they could say,
Oh, they're
TNT.
TNTs?
Yeah, they were TNTs, but they were technically legal. It's just that from what I understand, again, the history is a little bit hazy. I think there was something that had to do with the immigration laws changing in the 80s. So they still paid their taxes. They still worked. But no, they're citizens now and they're legal and they've been here. They've always been here legally, but we did have to go home eventually so they could fix their papers. And also, um, you know, they had to figure out how to be able to not only take care of us, but also to be able to work so they can be able to buy a home for us because we'd just been living in apartments year after year. And I think the last place we lived was a house out and I lived all over Southern California. We've lived everywhere. And I remember at one point, we I guess we moved out of the home we were renting and we all went to the Philippines. And I remember my parents having the conversation with us when we were out there, asking us, "Hey, would you guys be okay living with Lola and Tita and like going to school here? And it'll only be for a year, and because me and your mom have to go back home and we need to make money and we want to buy a house, and we'll come back for you. You'll come back here still, but it's gonna be a while. But will you be okay with that?" And I was totally ecstatic. I was like, yeah, heck yeah, my parents not here. I get to be with like my tita, my Lola. I was making all these like new friends in like the neighborhood. And I was just excited of just the prospect of like living in another country. And like, my sister, she's the middle child, so she was really shy. And she just was really traumatized by the fact that my parents were like leaving. My brother, he was too young to even really remember. He's, like I think he was like around 3 or 4 years old. So, and I was 7. So, I lived in the Philippines for a year and a half. I went to school out there. I went to an all girls college, Dominican college school, and I did my first grade year there. My sister did her kindergarten year there. My brother, he didn't go to school because he was still little. So my Lola we called her mommy too because she
Mm-hmm.
didn't like being called Lola.
Yeah, same with my grandma. We call her Nanay.
Nanay.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So yeah,
Yeah.
you get it. So, but we called her mommy too. Mommy too. She took care of my brother at the house, and would homeschool him and teach stuff. And I, uh, being there was awesome because I mean, I went there and I did not speak any Tagalog at all. My first language was English, actually. And being immersed in the culture really, really helped, and it being talked around to me constantly. And I picked it up really fast. And when you're that young, your brain's like a sponge, right? Very pliable. So you can pick up and learn things really fast. And I went to school out there. I made friends with all the neighborhood kids. I met all my family, and that was really the only time since then that I've met my family, my entire family on both sides. Like, we don't have really immediate family that lives out here. So,
Yeah, it's a typical Filipino. It's like all spread out all over the world.
yeah.
How did that experience affect you growing up?
Wow. Yeah. I mean, definitely, I'm so, so grateful that my parents gave us the opportunity to live in the Philippines because they truly wanted us to learn about our culture and meet our whole family and just have that experience. And at the same time, they were back here, sleeping on friends' couches and both working jobs, two jobs, I think even each, and just trying to save up a down payment for a house in the suburbs. And you know, I really felt like living in the Philippines really definitely shaped me as a person. And it's good to know that about me, but I was just so young then. And also I didn't even really understand or have a grasp on even pre-colonial roots at the time. Like I just had this, everything was post-colonial that I learned, and otherwise I was definitely all American. I mean, I was raised very, very American. Because even when I came back, it was funny when we first immigrated to the Philippines. Me, my brother, my sister, we were all light skinned. My mom's lighter, my dad's darker. So but then, when we came back to the States, like we were all tanned, and like my mom was like, "What happened to you guys?"
You guys are negritos.
Yeah, we became negritos. So, and because we were always outside playing outside, and and we got our island skin out.
I
So,
love the island skin.
which I embrace it now too, because wow, can I tell you, like, I don't know, ever since COVID happened,
Hmm.
it really triggered this. I feel like everybody kind of had a come to self moment where they were like even not only examining their life but their traumas, and even I think for me as a person of color, like your roots. And I never realized how much cultural insecurity I had or even knew that was what I was experiencing until COVID. And when I started discovering other Filipino creators and them started talking about our pre-colonial roots. And ever since then, I was really fascinated with researching that, as well as like also grieving and coming to terms with the fact of being a product of colonial erasure. And that's still something I'm still wrapping my head around and understanding. But it was a real shock because, I grew up, my parents wanted us to speak English. They actually didn't even encourage us, and I don't think it was on purpose, but because English was our first language, they would automatically speak to me, my brother and sister in English, and my mom and dad would speak to each other in Tagalog. And they thought that we would forget English if we didn't keep speaking it. That was their logic.
Okay.
And also, I know they just wanted us to fit in and not have accents.
Yeah. Assimilation.
And assimilation. Yeah. So I grew up just, my understanding of being Filipino was the food and going to, parties and having all the family friends coming together. Thankfully, my parents had a really great community of friends out here who I lovingly call my fake cousins. Because we all grew up together. We all were babies, and all my friends' parents, we all helped raise each other. And I remember at one point when my parents were in transition, we lived with one of our family friends out in Rancho Cucamonga, and so it was a full house full of people. But it was so fun because all the kids were like around the same age. So, it was so fun. And my parents, I really have to acknowledge them because, they worked so hard for us not to see and experience poverty.
Hmm.
And even though they were struggling, just trying to establish themselves here in the United States, like I had no idea how hard it was for them. And of course, even maybe some of the resentment they would feel like when I would start being a brat when I was going through my growing pains in my teenage years, I was in my teenage angst and like, you don't get me, and it's like, well, you don't know how hard we worked and you're so ungrateful.
Yeah.
Like, that whole back and forth, right? But
Hmm.
anyway, um, Yeah, I it's been a really interesting time. I really feel like as an adult now, I'm going back to my roots and understanding the impacts of colonial erasure and US imperialism on the Filipino people and experience in general. Um, you know, I realize how Americanized and even maybe whitewashed I viewed things up until a certain point. And then and again, I don't think it was, I think it was, again, has to do with assimilation and just survival, and trying to fit in. I always felt like I always felt really odd growing up. I never felt like I fit in anywhere. And I was bullied a lot when I was also a kid.
Why?
So I don't know. I felt like I was just an easy target. I just felt like I was just really sensitive, and I was hanging out with, I felt like by the time we got to junior high, that's when like cliques started really forming, right? Like
Hmm.
everybody's friends up until like sixth grade. And then all of a sudden, everybody wants to be cool or wants to start building their identities, right? So
Hmm.
there's like the skater people and like the smart people and like the popular kids and the preppy kids and then the Asian table and the, and then the hood crowd, and I hung around actually a lot of Black and Latino kids, and I was really the only Filipino that was in the group. And so, like, I definitely was influenced a lot by like a lot of like Black and Latino and like hip hop culture, but I also definitely grew up in white culture as well. I grew up in the suburbs, so yeah. I mean, like, I don't know. I guess I got bullied because I was just really sensitive and like an easy target. And when I started to try to move away from my bullies, they would get mad and say, no, no, like you need to hang out with us. Why are you hanging out with the skaters? Why are you hanging out with the skater girls and like like all that mess, right? And all that drama. And, my mom, I got into trouble a lot actually with like one of my best friends at the time, because she also was a bit troubled herself, and she would my parents were so strict, like they basically wanted me to go to school and come home. They didn't want me going out hanging out in my friends' houses. They didn't want me to do sleepovers. They
Never
didn't
sleep
want
over. Are you crazy?
Never. I know, right? No sleepover. You're not allowed. I couldn't have friends that were boys. They
Hmm.
wouldn't allow that. They wouldn't allow me to have a boyfriend. Of course, I mean, like I was like really young, but they were, but the tweens, everybody's having boyfriends, girlfriends at 13, 14-year-olds, all right. Like I wasn't allowed. I wasn't allowed to even have friends that were boys, like platonic friends that were boys. I couldn't even hang out with boys. Like I would have to like hang out with my girlfriends, and then we would like meet up, with like our guy friends and stuff and do it that way. But like, and I couldn't even go to the movie theaters without a parent. Like, they were so strict. Like I was, and so because of that, I rebelled. And my friends kind of influenced me. They're like, "Oh, well, you can come with us. Who cares?" And I remember one day we got out on a minimum day schedule like early, and my mom didn't know it was minimum day. So I wanted to walk to McDonald's like from the junior high, like all the other cool kids did, and like hang out with all the cool kids at McDonald's. And one of my stupid guy friends, he calls the house, because I was still able to talk to my guy friends on the phone. He calls the house looking for me.
Bro.
So he freaking basically like rats me out, but he didn't rat me out on purpose. But my mom was like, "What are you talking about?" Like, "Oh, we got out of school early," and she was pissed. Like if you know the wrath of Filipino moms, right? Like, do not make a Filipino woman mad.
How many lashing did you get?
Oh my God. I mean, she punched my arm. She yelled the shit out of me. She's like, "How dare you?" Like, it was it. I mean,
Was it a belt or a stick?
oh no, she used her fist. She
Yo,
punched
mom's
my shoulder
badass, man.
so hard, like several times, and yelled at me and shamed me. She
She
smacked
punched
me in the
you?
face. Oh, she punched me close to.
Mom is a badass punching. I never
Oh,
heard mom punching. It's usually stick, belt, or slap.
oh, my mom, she shoot her. Let's not get into it. I don't want to. I don't want to. I feel so bad. I'm totally talking so much shit about my look. My mom. I love my mom. I love my
Exactly.
mom so much. My mom. She's the matriarch of this family. I feel
Mhm.
like. I think with Filipino culture, I think like from our roots, from what I understand, we were a matriarchy.
Yep.
And so,
100%.
and I feel that through my mother. And the thing is, I understood now. I understand, even though like I'm like, that was straight up abusive, but I understood her anger and her fear, because my mom and our parents, right? They didn't grow up with therapy and like understanding emotional intelligence and all that. It was either you do as you're told and you keep your head down, or you just pray. You just pray to God. You pray to God and you ask for forgiveness, and then you go to confession, and then you make sure you do good, right? Um, but I understood her pain and her anger. She didn't know where I was. I lied to her. Um, and like, she was worried about me, but she felt so disrespected, right?
Mm-hmm.
And she took it really personal. And so because of that, I always knew like I couldn't ask my parents anything. I mean, I snuck out of the house, even in high school I was even more rebellious. I would sneak out of the house and like late at night and like go to friends' houses or go hang out with boys and like, I talked back a lot, because like being an American, right? It's very individualistic here, right? It's all
Mm-hmm.
about like us making our own identities and being whoever it is that we wanted to be and having that privilege, right? Growing up American, I was very like trying to stick up for myself,
Mm-hmm.
and I wanted to do what all my friends were doing. Like my friends' parents are cool. They're letting them like go to movies and like have boyfriends and hang out and like have like house parties and like even like some of these white parents, man, they would like be there chaperoning like freaking straight up house parties. And I remember being like 15 years old and like I went to like this one friend's house and it was white and like they straight up had like smeared off ice there and everything. Like, like they were, but they were allowing them to party and drink but they figured it's fine if, they were there and chaperoning. So,
Yeah. It's
but
just,
oh my God.
it's a Catholic, being raised Catholic. It's just, you have to be humble. You have to be listening to your parents or listen to Jesus, and that's it. You can't be an individual. You have to be in the group, or else you're not gonna succeed.
Or else you're not good, or you're not going to go to heaven, as my mom would
Yeah.
say.
Oh yeah.
She was so sad that like, so I do not practice Catholicism anymore whatsoever. Like after finding out just, after Spanish colonialism and the forcing upon religion upon our people and like erasing our traditions and our mystical and spiritual cultures and our ways of life and even being punished, for all that. And also even the erasure of even some of our native names too, which is why, right? Like a lot of people are like confused. They're like, why do like I'm like, you're Asian, but you have like a Spanish last name. And I'm like, well, yeah, because of colonialism, like,
Yeah.
yeah. and
Exactly.
and that was something too that I again didn't fully understand until just the last few years.
Yeah.
I grew up like basically like the whole like I don't see color and like I'm just gonna like treat everybody with kindness and respect no matter, of course I was always like no matter who you are I'm gonna embrace you, right? But like there was definitely no talk about race and talking about my identity as like other than just being Filipino or being American, and I felt like even to a degree, and I'm sure like especially my generation, the millennial Filipinos, we grew up pretty whitewashed, because we all wanted to fit in. And I didn't realize that was a thing until again I've gotten older and started also making more diverse friends as adults and making even more Filipino friends as adults, because I actually didn't grow up with a lot of Filipino friends. And I think because of that, there were just obviously certain attitudes and even I would even say internalized racism and isms, right? That like I didn't realize that I had to unpack during the COVID lockdown. Like, whoa, whoa. Like, I mean, my worldview and just the way that I didn't even look at myself as a person of color, like because I didn't look at color. I didn't see color. Like I went with that narrative for the longest time because I figured that's just I'm just going to treat you as a human being because you're a human and like doesn't matter what your race is, you're a human being and da 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 da. But I realized how indoctrinated maybe that was, and unpacking that. And so I feel like just the last few years I've been owning up to my identity and even my roots and even embracing my Filipino-ness. Like, especially with like, Western beauty standards, me being, I've been in the beauty industry for a long time. And the standards at the time, and talking about like even like the early 2000s where things were just so not politically correct. um the standard was Western beauty, the standard. And it's been really amazing to see like just the changes over the years, especially me being in the beauty industries and even in the mediums of like hair and makeup and all that for so long, to see that change of diversification. And I think I really saw that really, really, really happen. I mean, there definitely was some of that in the 90s, but I really, really felt like it started to really turn over a lot more during COVID. Because when the weird thing was when I would look into my feed and I looked at my explore page, I didn't realize that all the beauty accounts that were going into my algorithm, it was just all white people. It was all white people. And like, I didn't even think about that. And I realized, wow, I don't really have there's no like African American or Black beauty standards in my feed. There's not even any Asian in my feed. Not even any Asian in my feed. It was all white girls with blonde hair and blue eyes. And, and and that's the thing. I remember like at one point, being really, again, going back to like cultural insecurity and even just being insecure, right, growing up, and also just being a female in general. I mean, let's face it, with all the things that we face. But, I would have insecurities about my facial features and my eye shape and even my hair color. I wanted to be the blue-eyed blonde girl with like the pronounced nose and the high cheekbones and like the soft, oval face.
Light skinned.
And light skinned, yes, and light skinned. So I didn't like tanning. I would always cover myself up. I wanted to be as light as possible. I would wear I remember at one point when I finally was able to come into some money, so I was able to afford to get my hair done. I've always experimented with my hair color. And I remember at one point, like, I just wanted to be blonde. Like, I wanted to be blonde. And I was like platinum blonde for like quite a few years.
Platinum blonde.
Yeah, like white platinum blonde, actually. I've been almost every color. Because again, I didn't realize like I wanted to look white. I was trying to look more westernized or like mixed, right? I was so ashamed of looking Filipino. I hated my nose. I hated like my like that I had like a low small bridge and like,
Pango.
yeah, pango, right? We would grow up and that was another thing too. You know how like our Filipino parents or just Asian parents in general, they're so blunt, right? They just like they point out all your insecurities. And then I grew up, of course, with a complex because of it.
Yep.
And they're always poking you at your weight. You're either too skinny or too fat, or you're not eating enough.
Feed you anyway.
Yeah. And then my parents would always like, oh, like your Filipino nose, pango, and they would pinch your nose. I mean, I did the whole pinching my nose thing. I was like straight up, like I didn't do the clothespins thing, but I would like pinch my nose because I was trying to shape my nose to make it pointier. And oh yeah,
poor girl.
I know, all of that. And like, I was just, I couldn't wait to like have some money to be able to get like, things done on myself. But going back to, the fact that I just didn't think I was beautiful. I've tried so hard to be the opposite of what I thought, and I didn't realize how harmful that was to my self-esteem.
Mm-hmm. Have you forgiven yourself?
Oh, I'm still forgiving myself. Oh my God.
It's a process, girl.
It is a process, but I definitely have to say in the last few years, I've definitely embraced who I am a lot more. Like, obviously, like I still have like, the hair and all that stuff, but I feel like instead of it, and I wear, and I do like my makeup and my facial, my face contouring and things like, but rather than it just be me changing who I am as my ethnicity, I'm enhancing my features more and I'm embracing them. Like I used to like do my eyeshadow where like I would do like the carved crease because I wanted to make my eye rounder and like not as like slanted or like, because like
You
growing
have
up,
round
like,
eyes.
yes, we have round eyes, but I think I was trying to make more of a lid.
Mm,
And I actually look like I have round eyes, but like it's because like I know how to shape my eyes, but also I've been doing
magic.
like magic. But I think, for a long time, like I was trying to like make myself not look Asian when I discovered beauty makeup. Like I was contouring my nose. I still do, but like I do all these enhancements still, but not in a way now where like I'm trying to look white. I'm like doing it to just enhance my features and like make myself feel good. And also I'm an artist. So it's the way that I like to express myself, but I'm really proud of myself because I used to be so self-conscious of like my eye shape and on my eyelids because like I didn't have as much space. I have more of like hooded eyes, I guess they call it now in the beauty world. And so, you know, but I don't know, more as the older I've gotten, I've actually now the way that like I do my makeup is more to enhance my Asian beauty, my Filipino beauty. I don't, and I mean, shoot, like I go outside a lot more, so I'm a lot more tan, and like I'm embracing that too.
Mm,
Like I still do mad skincare though. I'm all about my sunscreen and making sure I don't get a lot of sun damage.
of
But
course.
as I've gotten older, because of my job, I work in the film industry. I've been on shows where like we were in the elements and I work outside a lot. So over time, I started getting freckles,
Mm.
which actually I love because like now everybody's like tattooing them on their face.
Mm-hmm.
And before, like there, unfortunately, before people that had freckles, like Lindsay Lohan, like they were like getting laser to try to get that all off their face. But now,
Yeah.
now you've got like Gen Z like coming up here, like either drawing them on their face or like getting them tattooed. It's quite interesting how beauty standards change.
Yeah. They
Not
even
even
have
just like,
filter for it.
oh my God, the filters are out of control. But what's really scary though now is there are now AI influencers
Mm-hmm.
that are beauty influencers made by AI that are made by men. Some of them made by men.
Of
And
course,
I
it's
just
gonna be men. You think women's gonna do
and they're
that?
and the way that they make these AI beauty and fashion influencers they're making them in their image, like to these really unrealistic beauty standards.
Mm-hmm.
And now Gen Zs and Gen Alphas, they're born with like an iPhone in their hand,
Mm-hmm.
and that's now the beauty standard. That's now like now that's that is that going to be because that's perfection.
Mm-hmm.
That's not there's nothing to compare that to, but like, and so now you have girls now that are like in their teens getting Botox and like lip fillers. You know, in one way, I think it's really important to also understand having access to these body modifications and enhancements. you know it's great, especially for gender affirming care. I get that. I get why people do it. Um, and also, I feel like kids are just doing things way too early and way too soon with when it
Yeah.
comes to modifying their faces.
Yeah.
And
Technology allowed that to happen.
technology influenced that, but also even the beauty industry, like when injectables and the rise of like cosmetic procedures started to become more and more developed. They would market it, and they still do. They market it as preventative. When it comes to like putting like Botox or like fillers in your face or doing lips enhancements and all this stuff, and it's like it's not preventative. I mean, when you're young, you're young. Like you're the best that you look at that time. And you have all your collagen and no wrinkles and not as much sun damage. And you know, I I have to say, going back to my mother, she was my beauty influence growing up because she really taught me about skincare. Like my mom unfortunately suffered with, like really bad acne as an adult. And I know that was an insecurity of hers, and to a point where like she ended up taking Accutane, which I don't. I try to be as holistic as possible, but I'm definitely not against cosmetic procedures, and I'm definitely not against using like products that are synthetic or made through biotech, which is such a great innovation too in beauty that I'm finding as well, with like stem cells and like growth factors and all those types of things. There's a lot of amazing ways now to be able to preserve your beauty. Um, but um, I just think that, yeah, the hyper realness that we see online, people want to recreate that in real life because that's what they find beautiful, or and I don't know if it's a mix of it's what they find beautiful, or if they are, oh, that's the standard and that's what I should look like. I think it's a little bit of both.
I think so too.
Uh,
Yeah. I want to talk to you about how you got into hairstyling.
oh yeah. So wow. Well, you know, beauty was always something I was an enthusiast in, of course, just being really feminine and being a girly girl growing up. I've always loved makeup. I've always loved hair. I remember like when I was in grade school and in high school, like I was in choir and we would do concerts, and I always loved doing my friends' makeup, and we would do each other's hair, and like, you know, make ourselves into all kinds of characters, right? And I remember taking, you know, you have to take those like tests in school of like I guess like those tests that measure like, you know, where you would be, what
Oh
career
yeah,
path to
yeah,
take.
yeah, yeah.
What I forget what that's called. Beauty was definitely one of them, but I also was really into music. I sang all throughout high school. I really wanted to be a singer songwriter and recording artist, actually. But of course, you know, my Filipino parents were like, that's not going to put food on the table. That's unrealistic. You need to go to college. Like, you know, you don't can't be gallivanting around like trying to be like, you know, an artist. That's like, you need a degree. You need a college degree. That's not going to make you any money. Right. And of course I rebelled because going to college was their desire and I wanted to be an artist. And so I did, you know, humor my parents, and I went to community college for a little bit and did my gen ed and try to like take some music classes there. And I remember a friend of mine at the time said, "Hey, why don't you try going to this makeup school? This is like really cool. And like you could do like makeup for movies." And I was like, "Oh, that's I never thought about that, you know?" So I remember like I sold the idea to my parents, like, "Hey, like, can you like I want to go to makeup school, you know?" And and I brought them to the school, you know, they had all the posters of like all these like big movies of like I guess their artists or some of their students have done. And my mom was also in the fact that like, oh, okay, like she thought, and I think in her mind she thought it was like a cosmetology degree, but the school I went to was a makeup school. It was a makeup trade school. So it wasn't, I just got a certificate. It wasn't, there was no degree. And so they thought immediately I was going to get jobs. And also, I was really naive. I thought I was going to get jobs too, right off the bat, going to makeup school. But that's just not how it works. You know, it was a lot of like, you know, learning how to navigate the freelance world at that point. You know, because me, like, I was so ADD when it came to like going to college. Like, I had no interest in like scholastics, like other than like maybe English and music, but you know, but I just was not interested.
You're an
I was,
artist.
yeah, I was an artist. And so, um, unfortunately, what I didn't realize was that the way of paying your dues when starting out as a makeup artist, especially wanting to go into maybe mediums like film, television, and print, even, you know, at the time it was like you have to do a lot of free work and build your portfolio and like work on student films and like network and like this, that, and the other. And I did a handful of that, but I just didn't like the fact that I was working for free and I had to pay my way. And you know, I you know, at the time too, I was definitely caught up in consumerism. So I wanted nice things. I wanted to have certain things. I wanted to be able to like look a certain way. So I wanted to make money. I immediately started working. I didn't end up going back to college. You know, I dropped out of college. I just decided to start working. So I got jobs. I worked so many odd jobs. Oh my God, before I got into film. But so I started out as a makeup artist beforehand. And I was a makeup artist for beauty retail companies. And I worked in different like spas and for different cosmetic companies over the years after I had graduated from makeup school, because that's almost kind of like the second step that you do after makeup school. Most people, you know, they either go all in and pay their dues and try to make their connections, like working with their way up the ladder to get into doing film, television, and all that stuff, right? Or you work at a makeup counter. And so that's what ended up happening for me. I ended up working in beauty retail for like over 10 years, like 10 plus
Ooh.
years. And I mean, and at the time, you know, I was making money. I was working up my way up the corporate ladder. I found stability. I found success. I built up my self-esteem and identity through that. And I also became such a great artist because I worked for makeup companies, because I was able to work on so many different types of diverse skin types and ages and like skin tones and textures of that. But then, of course, me being very ambitious and very driven at the time, I didn't like the plans that my managers had in store for me. I wanted to be an artist trainer, and they wanted to go in management first. And I wanted to bypass that because for me, it was all about the art, but I was also such a top seller. I mean, I was a top seller making like maybe about almost like $300,000 a year in a $3 million company, like a makeup counter. I was their top seller, and
Wow.
so I was kind of like their golden child for a while. But then I was so passionate about training and when to be, because like the idea was for me to become a trainer so I could work on like fashion shows and like key fashion shows and maybe like get into entertainment that way, right?
Hmm.
Because I still wanted to get into the entertainment business and I still wanted to do fashion and print. But they had other plans for me. They wanted me to be in management first, and I didn't agree with it. So I decided that I wanted to diversify and go to cosmetology school.
Hmm.
And I'm like, I'm just going to go off on my own. Like I'll work at the beauty counter part time, and then I'll just get my cosmetology license, and then I'm just going to like basically be an entrepreneur. Like I'm going to go and get a booth, do booth rental, get my own clients, and like, and since I already do makeup, if I added hair to the repertoire, I could be more marketable and I could probably hopefully make more money that way.
Hmm.
So I went to cosmetology school. And at the time that I was going to cosmetology, they ended up cutting my hours at the job that I was because of, because I reduced my hours so much for going to cosmetology school to the point where like I felt like I was forced to quit. So, and because I was having schedule conflicts with trying to get to school on time. And
Yeah.
it was really important with me to like be able to finish cosmetology school because I was the only one in my family that didn't go to college and finish college. Like my brother and sister, my brother and sister went the traditional route. The other motivation was to get into the entertainment industry to also meet like, people that were also in the music industry because I still had that desire to like get into music.
Mhm.
So, and also me with all my other interests, right? So anyway, I ended up working for a grassroots PR company that managed like musicians and music artists to get me through cosmetology school at the time. So I was able to at least dabble a little bit in the music business side of the world during which paid my way through, cosmetology school at the time. And then after I graduated cosmetology school, I didn't even do hair right after cosmetology school. I ended up working as a receptionist, booking appointments for cats and dogs to get spayed and neutered
What?
for like a mobile spay and neuter company.
So from that, you got to work with Jung Kook and Usher. How that jump happened?
Well, let me clarify. So Jung Kook and Usher, they both had their personals there. I did the dancers. So I got called in to department head doing the dancers, or key doing the dancers for Jung Kook's background dancers, which was still incredible.
Hell yeah, dude.
I mean, like that job was one of the first couple jobs I got right after the strike was finished, like with from the entertainment industry strike, from the SAG and WGA strike. And I mean, it was amazing. I like just that being one of the first things I get off the bat after the strike. I mean, it was, I love, one of my specialties is male grooming. So I love cutting and styling and men's hair. And I do find that it's something that I'm very good at. And actually, speaking of, this actually ties into, so after I ended up finally quitting the reception spay and neutering job to getting my first job at this haircutting place called Sport Clips. And so like they specialize in cutting, men's hair and doing clipper cuts and buzz cuts and stuff. And it's all sports themed. And the way that we had to train a certain way to cut men's hair there. So one of the fun things about going to Sport Clips is like you watch the guys get to watch sports and TV while we cut their hair. I know, my God. So it taught me how to cut around their hair and not necessarily intrude on, watching their entertainment, right?
This is so misogynistic.
Oh my God, right? So optimistic.
But as a man, by the way, I love it.
Well, okay. We could look at it two ways. It is there is definitely like a little. It's still it's giving a little misogyny, but also it's kind of like, well, this is a space for dudes and like dudes that are sports enthusiasts and like whatever,
I get
like
it. Yeah, it's a business.
But anyway, the I really like the fact that I worked there first because it taught me how to do hair on set subconsciously. I didn't even realize like the way that they set things up. I mean, when I do hair, and because I'm actually, so just a long story short, so I'm actually, I went from becoming a makeup artist to becoming solely a hairstylist now for the majority of my trade. And I predominantly do hair now for television and film. That's been most of my career for like the last 10 years. So working at Sport Clips, I was able to kind of maneuver and work around like somebody having an obstruction in front of them, right? When I work in the hair and makeup trailers on set, I mean, we have, you're literally working in a trailer. So there's the stations and the tables. They don't necessarily have a lot of counter space. It can be really short. And also sometimes you don't have a lot of space behind you, depending on the size trailer that they get you. So we've had to learn working at Sport Clips taught me how to work in close proximity and around the client while also them not being able to obstruct their view, because sometimes I'll have a talent or actor in my chair, they'll be running their lines or like reading their script or answering, business emails and stuff. And you got to be mindful of that. And while they're getting ready for their day, while you do their hair and get them through the works on time. So I thought that was like a cool, like looking back at that now, that experience, I mean, like, and oh my God, when I first started out, I mean, I was horrible at haircuts. Like I butchered so many haircuts, and the owners were so nice to me and they really, really loved me. And I was also, because I was a salesperson, because of my sales and retail background, I sold the shit out of all their hair products. I mean, I was their top seller at the time. And that's also why I was able to keep my job, is because like I made them a lot of money also selling products, but also they really wanted to give me a chance. They really thought I had potential. And also, my managers at the time, they took the time to teach me, because oh my God, I butchered like a couple different haircuts and got a couple bad reviews, I guess, on like Yelp or whatever. And like, or got back to them and they were so nice. They did not fire me, but they were like, yeah, we got to teach you.
Yeah, they see potential in you. They allow you to grow.
Yeah.
That's very
But
important.
so that's why like men's hair has been my bread and butter from the start, as far as transitioning from makeup artist to hair. And so when I got when I found out I was going to do hair for the dancers on the Jung Kook and like Usher video, I was ecstatic. And dude, I was so ecstatic too, because two of the dancers are Filipino.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. And like, it was so cool to like, I got so proud, because like every time I run into like Filipino talent on set, because now we're trending, right? Now we're on the come up. It's trendy to be Filipino now, right? Because 10 years ago, I hardly saw any Asian or even Filipinos, let alone that.
Going to your point, Vanessa Hudgens now claims that she's Filipina, she is Filipina, but back in the day, she never said that.
Right, because she was trying to be exotic and she was trying to be this, and again, no shade on Vanessa Hudgens, but I don't think at the time, even maybe strategy wise, they wanted people to embrace their Filipino-ness. They wanted them to look at, there's a lot of the ethnically ambiguous talent, right? Because then they're able to play like certain types of ethnicities and roles. But now with the cultural landscape changing, especially coming now into like,
Yeah.
2023.
I understand your point, but for me, as not connected to the business or whatever, for me it's like, you don't love me now when I'm down, and don't love me when I'm killing it.
Right.
You know what I mean?
I know what you mean. The hypocrisy. And also, but also, I'm gonna give her grace. It's about being marketable and fitting in and looking a certain beauty standard, right? So that we can get certain roles. Like if but I mean, we'll look at like what's that new young? She's half Filipino, half white. Olivia Rodrigo.
Yeah.
I mean, that's great that she's marketing herself as Filipino, but she's, and again, like I don't ever want to down any of my mixed people, like,
No.
because that's not right either. Like, I think I'm not I'm not trying to say they're not like they're less Filipino, or they're not as
No.
Filipino as
Yeah,
me
yeah.
because they're not full, but she's got the privilege of that Eurocentrism, right?
Mm-hmm.
To be able to market it a certain way,
100% the light skin.
the light skin, and also the European features
Yeah.
because of her mixed race, right?
100%.
And so, like, and it's funny because growing up, I wanted to look like mixed, right? Or I wanted to look like Olivia Rodrigo. I was like, but now I'm like, it's fine. I just look like PJ, So it's
You're
cool.
beautiful as you are.
Oh, I thank you so much, Aaron. But yeah, again, sorry, we keep zigzagging around tangents
It's
because
all good. It's conversation.
yeah, I
It's
love it. Bring me back, Aaron.
Okay, how about I got one question. Have you ever been struck by an actor or an artist?
In the beginning, when I first got into this business, like, so I got, so basically, like, I was able to get on a independent film, and like, I maybe did, I wasn't, it was really my first big thing, like, to do any type of film television medium. Before that I was doing like fashion photography. I did like a couple student films, but I never really was on set because I was mostly as a beauty retail artist for so many years, and then also working in photography and with fashion photographers. So cut two, I remember, like, this was like at the time where, like, I was going to give up. I wanted to give up trying to even like pursuing a career in the arts. I decided to go back to college at the time to get my business degree because I was like, I'm just going to go work the corporate ladder, maybe like work in marketing for beauty companies, since I have so much experience in like the beauty retail world. And like, I obviously am very passionate about beauty, but I wanted benefits. I wanted like retirement. I wanted savings. I wanted my 401k, like, I didn't want to be a starving artist. And so I was in college at the time, and I was still freelancing for one of the makeup companies just to get just for to make income on the side. And one of those makeup artists, she was still in film and television and trying to also get into and I'm a unionized hairstylist. So like, she was trying to get into the union as a makeup artist, and she actually tapped my shoulder and say, "Hey, you do hair, right?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I do hair." And she goes, "Do you want to like do this this reality show pilot with me?" Like, it was, oh my God, it was like $150, which is like nothing
For the whole day?
for an 8 hour, it was like an 8 or 12 hour day. It's terrible. But at the time, I just was like, I did it on a whim. I had no qualms of thinking that I was going to get into film or television. I just thought, let me just do this for fun and like help my friend out. And then I met some people there that were also artists that were also trying to get there, because you have to earn a certain amount of and work a certain amount of days on certain productions to earn your union days to become unionized. And I met those types of people on that show. And so they got my number. We just exchanged information. Again, I'm not even going in that deep on this because I was still trying to like get my college degree, and like, I was hard on trying to get like my business degree, right? And then a month after that shoot, I get called to interview for a department heading hair position for an indie film.
Wow.
And it was with a really big, she's a big actress. I get a little shy about saying name dropping or saying, like, when I'm with my friends, I say it, but like, I just want to be courteous too. Cause like,
of course.
but at the time, this person was, she's still huge. She was a huge, actress. I'm sure when you go on my IMDb, you'll see who it all is, but like, it was her directorial debut. And it was an indie film. They couldn't find a hairstylist to do it for the life of them because the rate was, it was low budget. And they, my friend called me up. I interviewed for this person. I couldn't believe I was like sitting right in front of this actress. And like, I'm like, oh my God, like, I was so nervous. And she was so nice. She's like, "Are you nice? Do you know how to read a room? Can you do blowouts and all that?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I can do all that." She goes, "You're hired."
That easy.
And I was like, okay. So, and I had never I went in blind. I did not know nothing.
Fake it till you make it.
Yeah, and I I mean, and it was hard too. It was a hard job. It was like, I mean, I think it was 5 weeks. We did all locations. We shot like all over like Los Angeles and even I think in like Big Bear and like Crestline and all that. And um, you know, I I just literally went off of the makeup artist because she was more experienced than me. So I was the one that learned about like how to break down a script and like continuity and like wigs. Like I didn't even know how to do wigs at the time, and I had to like cut and style a wig for like this like veteran actress that was playing a pretty featured role. I did not know how to do anything, and I just somehow just because of my intuitiveness and my creativity and my experience in management doing being in retail and knowing how to lead and just knowing how to figure things out. I mean, I made it work and I still think that it turned out pretty well considering I had no experience, but
I'm sure
like
it did. Listen,
yeah.
PJ, I love this conversation, but I think we're there. Do you have anything to say before we close out?
you know I, what do I have to say? I guess what I have to say is, you know I think seeing the evolution of the beauty industry as well as film and television and all the diversification that has happened now up until this point in my career, and also kind of encapsulating to even my experience growing up, I feel like it's come full circle. I feel like, you know I've grown up. I mean, getting into the film business is such a unique position to be in because this is where I was able to make the most diverse amount of friendships and relationships. I work with everybody from all ages, all classes, all types of cultures and groups of people. And I think that's what's really cool and special about what I do. And I think what's really special about what I do and what's really cool about what I do is I get to be a part of a collective and creating a story and a character and helping these other artists, these actors, and these talents be able to um, relay their art, and so I guess what I have to say was, well, I was able to prove my parents wrong, that I was able to make a full career about being an artist and being able to support myself. And, it took a long time for them to respect me with that. And, my mom was always pushing me to be a nurse, but, they realized like, wow, okay, I guess this really is something for you. And so I'm still evolving, I'm still searching, I'm still antsy, I'm still wanting to explore other things of my life and other mediums of artistry and business. But I feel like I'm at a point now where like I've definitely feel like I've hit the highest I can go in a sense of where I can go with what I'm doing, and now it's about diversifying and also embracing just the unknown and also anything cool that may come up in my life. But yeah, thank you so much, Aaron, for having me. I
Oh, of
really
course.
appreciate this taking the time to chat and also just going down memory lane and just remembering. It's nice to kind of remember all the accomplishments too
Of
that I've
course.
now up until this point.
Yeah, you have to learn to look back. Again, PJ, thank you so much for your time and thank you for coming on the podcast. I really do appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Aaron.
Have a good day.
You too.
Bye. Again, PJ, thank you for coming on the podcast. I really do appreciate it. Thank you, listeners, for listening. This is Aaron Deliosa for An Immigrant's Life. I will see you guys later.